He's the best. Charles Oliveira defeats Dustin Poirier by a third round submission. A lot of people doubted him. A lot of people did not believe that Oliveira had what it takes to not only withstand the damage that Dustin was able to inflict, but just flat out beat Dustin Poirier in a fight. And we have to say, man, Oliveira is a lot more durable than any of us thought. He took some big shots from Dustin Poirier that entire first round. Left straights, right overhands, combinations, and he walked into so many of the punches. I never would have thought that Oliveira at times will look like the Terminator. He has a chin and he has heart. And not only that, he has technically shown to be one of the scariest guys of that lightweight division. Give one opening to him and that's all it takes, man. He got that rear naked choke on Dustin Poirier very easily. As soon as he got the back, it looked like it was the beginning of the end. But it's interesting how he set up the back take. It was all about positioning. In fact, the most important thing about this entire fight was overall positioning. Where in the cage are they positioned? How are they positioned when they're throwing punches? How they're able to keep balance? And the position they take when they're defending punches. Dustin Poirier's positioning in the fight was not too stellar. I mean, for the majority of the fight, he was on the cage. Number two, whenever he threw his punches, he overextended forward and it gave Oliveira a lot of opportunities to counter him or clinch up with him. And number three, when he was defending punches, he was pulling back on a lot of them, ultimately giving up his hips, and that's how the rear naked choke happened. In the third round, what Charles Oliveira does, knowing that they're in opposite stances, a big step forward, and makes it look like he's going to trap the lead hand. But what he does is he shows his right straight and gets Dustin Poirier to pull back and try to counter with his own right hook. Charles Oliveira was able to get under the hook and wrap a deep body lock, able to get all the way around on Dustin Poirier. Poirier gets on all fours, and that's a clear opening for Charles Oliveira to get the hooks and ultimately get that rear naked choke very easily. The right straight setup is something he found in the first round. From a chaotic first round, Oliveira was able to pick up on things to start capitalizing on them later in the fight. So when he was throwing his right straight, he was noticing that Dustin was constantly pulling back on it and looking to counter with his own right hand, which is his lead. Pulling back on the right hand like this is going to cause Dustin Poirier to give up his hips. This gives Oliveira a clear shot to go in for a takedown, especially if he's not committing fully into the right hand, just like he did at the ending sequence. Notice in the third round when he throws the right hand, he's not committing with the punch. He's using it as a guide to follow through and under Dustin Poirier's counter right hand. And another thing Oliveira knew was, every time Dustin Poirier was punching, he was putting tremendous amount of power into every single shot, especially his intercepting and counter punches. So he knew if he would shoot down the right straight, and Dustin would look to counter, he's looking to counter with a lot of power, ultimately overextending himself and giving up a much bigger opening. So it was a great setup for the body lock from Charles Oliveira. But there was also one other pattern in the fight. When Dustin was throwing down his left hand, the main weapon he went to the entire fight, throwing out a left straight from a distance, Charles Oliveira did a very good job of slipping on the punch, but even the times he would get hit by it, he would always look to clinch up with Poirier immediately afterward. When Poirier's throwing all of his punches, again, he's putting power in everything, he is overextending with it and getting out of position, which gives Oliveira an easy clinch attempt where he starts to land body shots on Dustin. Those knees to the body look like they were taking their toll, and the clinch ultimately relieved Oliveira from the barrage that Dustin usually finishes his opponents with. It's something that a lot of fighters don't do against Dustin Poirier. When he usually gets them hurt, he's able to barrage them with a bunch of hooks and straights, and he's usually able to get the finish through that. But against Charles Oliveira, even when he's hitting him clean, Oliveira is able to get in that clinch and negate the action completely, to the point where the momentum starts to change and Oliveira was able to land his body shots to back up Dustin Poirier. The body shots also came in a form of a front kick. Oliveira was digging into the body with a large amount of front kicks, man. But speaking about the barrages from Dustin, it was explained from Dustin Poirier himself after the fight when he said that he was brawling out too much. He saw that he would hurt Charles Oliveira, he would land clean. He didn't think Oliveira was durable enough to take those blows, so he thought he was going to be able to finish him in the first round, which is exactly what he said. He said he was surprised by Oliveira's durability in taking that many punches in the first round. But this hurriness to finish the fight didn't just come out of Dustin Poirier on the feet. He chased the ground too many times as well. When you hurt Oliveira, do not chase him to the ground. And Dustin just got way too eager for the finish, and ultimately cost him a lot of advantageous positions. There were points where he was able to back up Charles Oliveira, but because he would swing wildly with a huge right hook looking to knock him out, he completely lost his pressure because Oliveira is a guy who loves to keep pressure on opponents, and you saw it in this fight as well. As soon as you give an opening to Oliveira where he sees that he could take his pressure back, he's going to jump on it. As soon as Dustin overextends on the right hook, Oliveira chases on the outside foot, lands the right straight, backs up Dustin to the cage, and it became very difficult for Dustin to get that pressure back. But what started this all off was that Dustin thought he hurt Oliveira on that first quote-unquote knockdown. Dustin comes forward with that signature shift combination. As Oliveira is throwing a leg kick, he's able to land a left straight over the leg kick. He switches stances forward and puts up a lot of momentum and power into the right hook. But the hook does not connect, it hits the guard, and you can see Oliveira's back foot slip. This is what put Dustin in war mode, and he looked to finish off Charles Oliveira. He tries to go in for another shift combo, switches stances forward as he throws a left hook. He pumps out with some jabs in order to measure for his overhand right. But Oliveira was not rocked. He was able to backstep and counter Dustin with a right straight. And that shift combo is something Dustin used multiple times in the first round. But every single time, even if Oliveira got caught by the left straight, he would always find an opening to counter Dustin Poirier's follow-up right overhand. But it ultimately was that left straight from Dustin that was playing as a double-edged sword. It was giving Dustin a lot of success in the fight. Most of the punches he was landing was that left straight, but at the same time, it's what caused Dustin to also get countered or clinched up, for the sole reason being that he would overextend moving forward with it. As I said before, man, positioning was the most important thing about this fight. And if Dustin was not overextending with the left straight like that, Oliveira would not have many answers to it, because Oliveira was not moving his head, man. It's an issue he's always had, but in this fight, man, Dustin was just throwing punches, and most of them were just hitting Oliveira. For an example, when we look in this first round, it was the moment where Dustin was able to actually drop Oliveira. Oliveira's looking to hand trap, but he walks right into a left straight that glances off of him. He eats the punch and starts walking forward, and Dustin connects with another left straight where Oliveira is trying to counter him with a right uppercut. This was actually something he was successful with before, literally 12 seconds prior, where he was able to parry the left straight, and as you know, Dustin overextends forward with it, naturally putting him in line of sight for that right uppercut. But the fact that Dustin actually lands the left straight this time and is moving backwards while throwing the left, it makes Oliveira's uppercut fall short. And that's ultimately what Dustin needed in this fight. Not to overextend forward, but keep his balance. As the right uppercut misses, Oliveira drops his left hand, and Poirier is able to wing out there a huge right hook that drops him. And that's when the issue came, where Dustin chased him to the ground. And speaking of moments in the fight, another great moment from Charles Oliveira in the second round, where he was trying to get the takedown, he goes over the top and lands an elbow on Dustin, which creates an opening for him to drive in a left underhook. This is the first step to the body lock that he's looking for. By wrapping around Dustin and leaning him over, he goes and connects with a knee, which pops Dustin's head up, opening up space for him to dig in an even deeper right underhook so he can get in that deep body lock. And from there, he's looking to trip out Dustin Poirier over his left hip as Dustin is holding on to that right whizzer. As Dustin's looking to stand up, Oliveira is able to slip out of the whizzer, and Oliveira made a huge issue of where he was trying to drag Dustin to the ground with him, but he ultimately slips and falls himself. Dustin again makes the error of chasing Oliveira to the ground. That's when Oliveira attacks the omoplata, as Dustin was looking to punch through with the same arm. And of course, Oliveira did cheat. He was holding onto the glove and Dustin couldn't get out of it. If Oliveira never held onto the glove like this, Dustin would have easily been able to slip out. This is the second fight in the row where a fighter was grabbing onto Dustin's glove. Conor McGregor did it, and now Charles Oliveira did it. Dustin made another huge error of flipping over and allowed Oliveira to get on top of him, locked down in Dustin's guard. Dustin was holding onto the body triangle and ultimately just holding Charles close to him as much as possible. I mean, he was holding on to dear life. And the commentators were kind of confused as to why Dustin was sitting in his guard like this. It was pretty simple, man. It's Charles Oliveira on top of him. Give any opening and Oliveira is going to take it. If he's trying to just stand up, he's going to give something up for Oliveira to attack, which is something you never want to do. And that is the end of the breakdown, guys. It was a great fight by both fighters, and Charles Oliveira really showed he is here to stay at the top of the division. And who he has to fight next is, of course, Justin Gaethje, which in my opinion is his nightmare matchup. Justin's not going to be an easy fight for Oliveira at all, unless he gets the fight to the ground or he's able to get the back or something like that. Striking with Gaethje is going to be a lot more dangerous than it is striking with Dustin Poirier. Also, Gaethje has much better takedown defense than Poirier, so it's really going to test Oliveira, as there's no easy matchups for him in this lightweight division. And as for Dustin Poirier, the fight that makes the most sense for him is for him to fight Michael Chandler. Both guys lost their last fights, and they're both some of the top contenders of the lightweight division. It would also be a fantastic fight, but the UFC is probably going to look at the Conor McGregor rematch, given the fact that Dustin has lost and he has no claim to a title anymore. So it's going to be interesting to see where these two guys go next, but I am super excited for it, man, and I'll see you guys in the next video.